3D Steampunk Mermaid Bracelet Acrylic Nail Art Tutorial by Hotpinkzebrapolish. Hi guys, in today's video I am doing a 3D abstract steampunk mermaid nail art bracelet. That is quite the title, so I narrowed it down for the video title. I wanted it to be steampunk and I wanted it to be a mermaid. I don't know why I'm feeling mermaids recently. And I also wanted it to be kind of abstract and not something that is so obvious and like in your face, just a little more subdued with dark colors and rich colors. And so I'm using all of these cute little things that I just got from Born Pretty Store, and you'll see more of those in a moment. And so I really enjoyed doing this, and if you like it, it is available in my online store, and I'll put a link to that in the description box, so check that out. And don't forget to click subscribe to see my future videos as well. So these are the things I got from Born Pretty Store. First, this is a wheel of all kinds of gold and silver studs and little shapes. So there's quite a few feathers in here, and actually I planned to use some of these in the design and then I didn't. So I don't know why I didn't, but you can see not these, but some of the other studs I did actually have on my nails right now, so you can see those. But these little, there's a whole bunch of different sizes of the feathers, which is really cool. So if you had, I always find that I like to put smaller embellishments on my ring nails than I do on my thumbs or what have you, and so that works really well because they have different sizes. You can have the same design, but you can condense it or consolidate it. And then there's also some chains in there, both gold and silver, and everything that's gold and silver is the same shade. I know I've said that in the past where some of the gold stuff is more of a yellow gold, some of it's a different kind of gold. So, and the little bars in there are actually, they're a little cylinder, so they don't have a flat edge, which for some circumstances would be a good thing and some it would be a bad thing. So that's just something to have in mind. These I absolutely love. This is from this wheel. I have some stuff on my nails. So there's all these different little shapes, like there's diamonds and triangles and squares and circles. And some of them are hollow. Like as you can see, I've got a little metal gold circle around a half pearl on my nails, which I used from this. And so there's hollow diamonds like that one. These have so many uses, and I love that you can, like, I layered them together. That is such a cool way to do this that it just, I really like this wheel. And there's also just some studs in there. So here we have some little stones, and I thought about using these again in the bracelet. I thought, okay, well, these stones, mermaids, that goes together, but then they're not very steampunky, so I thought I'd save those for another day too. But since they are stones, each one is different, each one is unique. They're all a very natural, organic shape, and they have their own marble inside them, like their marbling is all their unique, and they have their own personality, so those are so amazing. Now for the little gears and little metal parts, you can see that there is a huge variety of them, and some of them have the little post in them so that you can, if you wanted to, if you were sculpting with the acrylic, you could stick that post right in the nail, and then as it sets, I don't know for sure, but it might be able to turn without really doing any work yourself. So there was a whole bunch of different shapes of those. And then I have these little weapons, they're little guns. I don't know why I thought I'd like these, and I do. They're cool, and I don't really like guns, and so I don't know. But I'm thinking Halloween, which I know Halloween was just. But if you were subscribed to my channel, then you know that I love Halloween. So I'm sure I will find uses for these around that time of year. And I just thought they were kind of cool. I don't know. Sometimes I'm very contradictory with myself. So here's the coral type stuff. So it's almost one piece in there, and as you start pulling on it and taking it out, it like grows. It actually is so much of this that it doesn't look like it's much, but you could probably do a couple sets out of this and do each nail because it just expands, and it doesn't take very much to get the effect. The one thing I do want to say is it has a slight smell. I can't really describe it either. It's not horrible or very strong, but I just noticed that it kind of had a smell. And once it's in acrylic, obviously you won't notice that either. Or once you have your acrylic open, that'll pretty much take over. So now for the wire, I have this pink and purple, but the pink seems to be a little bit more like a red, so it's kind of like a cherry red instead of a really pink. And so the wire is nice and fine. And so to start the bracelet, I'm going to, as you can see, I have gears set out on, or already attached on one side. So I'm going to work on the other side. And because the bracelet base I'm using is metal and it's super metallic, I've got this horrible reflection going on from my light. But you can still see it, and I try throughout the video to combat that. So I laid down a bead of clear acrylic, and I let that set. And then I'm going to add another bead on top of it and attach one of my gears. And I use 3 gears. All of them are gold since my bracelet is silver. And so I picked out 3, and they're the same 3, so I got 2 of each kind, and I just am adding them. And so that first bead of acrylic that I lay down and then let set is a little spacer, because you want there to be a gap between the bracelet and between the gear. You're going to wrap your wire underneath and around that, so you need to leave a little space. And so just make sure, and then after you have them attached, add another bead up and over the top, really to hold them on, and then let them set before you start adding the wire to them. Because if you were to start adding the wire and wrapping the wire on them before they were 100% set, you just pop them right off, which really is not the goal. So now I'm going to be adding the last one, and I made sure that I got 3 that were the same. So make sure if you get these gears that you go through them and you grab 2 of each kind before you start adding them, because there isn't 2 of everything. So make sure you do get 2 of each kind. So now I cut about 6 to 8 inches of the purple wire, and I'm just going to start wrapping it around there. And I really didn't have a plan for this. I just decided that I'd see how it goes and what have you. So I wrapped it around, and then I went back and forth. There's a little cutout right about the middle of the bracelet, so then I started wrapping the wire around that, and I concentrated most of the wrapping on one side, so it would be like purple on one side, and then later I'll wrap the pink on the other side. But this is just to finish that off. And so once I have it wrapped around a few times, and sorry I'm kind of going off camera like I really hate to do, then I just gave it a good little twist to really secure those 2 pieces, and then I'm going to start wrapping them around itself, going in and out almost like you're sewing. And then once I have it, I'll just trim it off. This wire is really flexible, it's really thin, and it's really soft, so it's easy to cut. Even a manicure scissors will just cut right through it. That being said, it's good because you can cut through it with a manicure scissors. You don't have to do anything crazy. This wire would look so amazing if you had a nice long stiletto and then you had it wrapped around the stiletto. That would be so cool. And so then I'm going to repeat the process with the pink red color. I don't know, to me it's red, but it's might be kind of pink. So I just wrapped it around in a different pattern than I did with the purple. This one was a lot more random. The purple seemed to actually have a little bit of a sense of order. I wasn't intending to, but you know, there's a little order with that one. Whereas the pink was just kind of, like I said, random. I just wrapped around this way, wrapped around that way, and then like with the purple, I'm just going to wrap it around that little cutout on the other side, and then tuck the ends of the wire in and around. You can see it a little bit better. So I just went around and around and around and around as much as I could. You can finish off the end of it any way that you like. I'm going to be covering it with acrylic later, so what I'm doing now isn't for design purposes, it's more to just hold it until I can cover it with acrylic. So then after I have that and it's pretty much wrapped all the way up, I'll just trim off that little tiny bit of extra there just so there's not a sharp edge. And then, as I said, I'm going to be securing everything with clear acrylic. So I'm going to fill in all the way underneath those gears now. So I don't want any more gap left. I want them to be completely filled in underneath. If you do leave a gap, chances are it's going to start getting caught on your clothing, and if you were like moving around, if you put on a coat, it's going to catch on that, or a sweater. It's just, you want to basically smooth this out. And if you are using clear acrylic, it's not really going to show that that's completely filled in, and once you add gel sealer on it, you pretty much won't see it. So it'll look like there's just these floating gears with wire wrapped around them. And so that's, that works out really well. You could also use gel for this if you'd like to use that instead. That would also work. So I'm just going to wrap those up and wrap those around just like so, and making sure that I am really covering up underneath those gears, because that is also going to hold them on, because if they do keep getting caught on things, they're going to eventually snap off. But if they don't get caught and they are nice and secure and they're fully attached with all that clear, they're going to be fine. And then I'm going to cover up those little wire ends on the side of the bracelet, or the edge of the, not edge, but over there near the cutout where the wire gets finished off. Just cover that too with some of the clear. So now with that weird purple coral stuff, I'm going to cut off a few pieces. Like I said, you can stretch this stuff out, and so it goes so much farther than it looks. So I just cut out, I used 3 pieces, and I'm just going to figure out where I want them set on there. And once again, I'm off camera. Was a bad day for me for that, I guess. And just keep like pulling and stretching it, and if it doesn't stretch, I just gave it a little cut so it would go in the direction I wanted it to, and keep pulling it and like expanding it, because it was so condensed in there that you really need to re-aerate it almost. So then I'll just take a thin bead or a couple thin beads of clear acrylic and just really lay them out in there, and then set down those pieces of that corally stuff, and I pressed them in, and I just used a plastic bag to really press them in. And then I'm going to be filling in everything else with some more clear. And as you can see, I trimmed off a couple of the little pieces of the coral that was sticking straight up, just so that it wasn't sticking up through the acrylic too much. And as you're doing this, I don't know if you can see this as much as it was obvious when I was doing it, the corally stuff got quite a bit darker once it got the acrylic on it. It at least a couple shades darker, which for my purposes, I thought that was actually kind of cool. It just was something to keep in mind so that as you're doing this, if you do use that, you know to plan for it to get darker, if that makes sense. Just, I mean, maybe it doesn't make any difference, maybe it does, but better to know than to find out when you're in the middle of a project. It's probably the way I'd go with things. So just cover it up. It takes a lot of acrylic and really press it into the coral so that it does cover, and it's not going to be perfectly smooth. Know that, because this coral, it does stick up through it. So then as you go through, I'm going to start filing it. I'm using my e-file to do this, and like I said, it was not smooth. It was really lumpy just because all that coral was being beastly and like an octopus trying to stick all of its tentacles out through the surface of the acrylic. And as you're filing, if you do file through it and there does get to be some of that coral exposed, that's fine. It doesn't really matter. The acrylic will hold it in place. And I'm going to be adding some gel on top of it in a moment anyway, so if there is some exposed, it's fine. It's not an issue. Wouldn't this coral stuff look absolutely amazing in a clear tip? I mean, just a clear with this in there, and then maybe some shell rhinestones or studs. That would be so cool. So then I missed this part, but I'm going to be adding some gel, and I'm using Madame Glam's gel top coat because it's really thick, so it's going to help smooth over any lumps or bumps that might still be there. And then after that's cured, I'm going to glue on one of the larger metal pieces from the gear kit. Not really kit, but the gear box jar. Yeah. And then once that glue has dried, I'm going to start sculpting out my mermaid. So I'm going to be sculpting her with black. Now, if you want to, like I said, I did want this to remain kind of dark and mysterious. And she doesn't show up, as I said, obvious. It's not, you don't look at it and maybe it takes a second to see her. It's a little more abstract. And so if you wanted it to be more obvious, then instead of making her black, maybe use white instead, or you could make her colorful. You could make her skin tone, whatever skin tone you want to use, and you can make her tail green. You could switch things up. I kind of liked the black, especially with the gears and the pewter tone bracelet and the wire and stuff. I thought that was, I don't know, I liked it. So I'm going to make her so she's sitting on that little metal piece that we glued in the middle there. So her tail's going to be kind of up and then come down. And I'm just going to be adding some more black acrylic to her, making her nice and thick. And over the top of that gear piece that's already on there, it's going to be a little bit lumpy just because it has to go up and over. So add some more acrylic to help smooth out that transition. And then I'm going to be adding one arm in a moment here where it's just kind of like she's leaning down back on it, and that hand is going to be resting on the top of that metal piece. Just like that. And as you can see, I am using several small beads instead of trying to do a lot of this in one. I think that usually works out better for me. And just making her shoulder. Then adding a little more thickness to her arm, trying to bring everything up to the same level of thickness or close to the same level. And as I mentioned, I don't know why I'm in a mermaid mood recently. Mermaids have never been one of the subjects that I choose generally to paint or to sculpt or to do art on, and I like them. Same thing with unicorns. I like doing these as I am doing them. I mean, I enjoy it, but it doesn't ever really cross my mind when I'm just thinking of what I should do, or when I don't know. It's never an idea that just pops into my head on my own. So I don't know where this sudden mermaid obsession came from with me. It's a little strange. I don't know. So I also gave her a top hat. I was really, I don't know. I like top hats. And if you are subscribed to my art channel, you'll see that when I painted my skeleton, my little skeleton butler guy, I gave him a top hat. And I just, I kind of enjoy top hats. They are sort of, I don't know, classic. They're very classic to me. And so I'm going to add some more acrylic to her tail. I like to have a little crease between where her knees, or if she had knees, where her knees would be. I want to make sure it had a little crease there. And then I'm going to be adding the fins on the end of her tail. And I'm going to be adding, as you can see, I also did this with her hair. I'm using silicone tools to help add some of the little indents in the acrylic. So I'll form out the tail half with my brush, and then using a nice little silicone tool, I'm just going to press in to make it kind of, I don't know, wavy looking. And then using some nail glue, I'm going to apply that over her tail and then grab some metal parts and start applying them. So I'm just applying the metal to her tail. And so I'm going to lay down, that one fit really well over her knees. So I put that one down and then added some other ones. And I did have to periodically go through and add some more nail glue. And as you can see, that time I got a little too much nail glue, so I just got rid of extra with a little cotton bud. And then I'm going to be just adding the extra gears. And I went through and I picked out the gears that I liked before I started adding them on. And so I made sure I grabbed some of the smaller ones since I knew it was going to be on a tail, and just filled those in. Once again, these gears would look amazing in just a clear tip. That would look absolutely amazing. And then I added one more of the little teeny tiny gears on her hat. And so then I'm going to be applying some gel sealer over the gears on the sides just to make sure that those are nice and shiny, and then over the mermaid herself, and a little bit over the background too, just to clear up a little smudge that I had on there. And that is it. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you like this video. Don't forget to click subscribe. It really helps me out, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!